Here's where I always start. Life is bumping into life, creating more life. Now, we do not have, nor have we ever had, control over the flow of life, the evolution of humanity. What we are looking at is a wash and repeat of how human beings have shown up on the planet since the beginning. I look at today's political system, I look at racism, and what I see is insight to the mindset of the conquerors who rode through Egypt, knocking off the noses of statues in order to create some idea of personal supremacy. What we are looking at is what lives in human consciousness. And we have the benefit of the tool of the surviving self and looking inwardly to understand the nature of being human. And if you were to take the labels off of it, let's take the label of Democrat away, the label of Republican away, the label of American away. If you take those labels away, what you have are degrees of being rooted in the surviving self, the thriving self, and the infinite self. Now, those aren't three selves, that's one full range of who we are. But we don't get to act as our whole self until we start paying attention to which self dominates and then consciously and intentionally bring balance to that. And when we allow, again, right this moment, we're not thinking about labels, we're thinking about ourselves. And when you allow your surviving self to run through your life unchecked, it is mayhem. It is overwhelming. It is beyond difficult to wrangle. Now you take and you create, you project your fear, your need to control, your surviving self into the spaces around you so that you can feel comfortable and strong and empowered in your surviving self. I never want to sound like airy-fairy and cosmic and all of that. I don't represent this work well if I sound cosmic and airy-fairy. It truly is about us being mindful with ourselves so that we can create a more mindful world. So the degree to which the surviving self has pulled us forward out of fight, flight, and freeze, the degree to which that is the core operating system for all of us aligns with the fact that 80% of our thinking is negative, 95% of our thinking is repetitive. We think in terms of other. We act in terms of other. So when we see that happening inside of ourselves, how can we not expect some form of the othering that lives in the world? And when we see ourselves from the surviving self's myopic view that it's all about me, this discomfort, this that we are facing, this is about evolution. This is about humanity. Each one of us, if we had the eyes to see, we would see that we are on a track and we are running a race. We have a baton in our hand. We've got so many meters to run before we hand it off. You, me, we're not gonna fix this. But if we do our work inside and we consciously use this new part of our brain, the neocortex, the one that allows us to be objective, the one that allows us to sit above and see. I mean, the fact that we can even see the three selves in operation, that is evolution. That is an accomplishment, because there's a set of ancestors that couldn't. There's a set of ancestors that didn't have use of their thumbs. So if we are willing to not accept the conditions, no, this neocortex that we have, that 20% of being able to think beyond the conditioning, think beyond the othering, think beyond fight, flight, or freeze and survival, and actually invite in, seek. Practice number 4, I look for and transform, seek the behavior, the thinking, the possibility of having more of our truest nature, which is cosmic, which is God, or whatever name you want to use, to harness more of that in this lifetime is the most important thing we can do, because then we're going to bring this to these conversations. We're going to bring those ideas and that resonance and the awareness that, oh my God, there's no real separation between me and that person over there. What is really happening here is consciousness is finding its way to be harmonious. And the most I can do is to work to do that inside of myself. And then in terms of the very real, because the surviving self is real, the surviving self is over here shaking, wondering how I'm going to save myself. If this man comes into office, what if he is, going to seize assets, going to put people in concentration camps, gonna. Here's what I find interesting. We are in forget political time, forget it. Think about yourself and those moments when things just seem to be stacked in a particular way. I mean, we are at a time when the current president is in the state that he is in, and there seems to be nobody in the field to take over. And this, what feels like alarming doom, stands positioned to be elevated. But those conditions have existed many, many times and not become the reality. And it's been positioned many, many times, Hitler being the most obvious example, and been toppled by that freaking 20%. That freaking 20%, do not underestimate it. That freaking 20% is our responsibility to reach for. And then, while we're reaching, life is bumping into life, creating more life, and how we respond to that life matters. Viktor Frankl, during being in a Nazi internment camp, created a whole person kind of movement, because in those dire situations, he caught sight of the importance of showing up intentionally and having a reason to live so he could share the story going forward. We all will be called to step into more of ourselves, no matter which direction this thing goes. And if you are here to pull life forward, then that's what you will do. But if you make this about yourself, you will suffer. If you are gaining value from this channel, then I ask that you subscribe. And even more important, if you are gaining value, share this channel with someone else. And let's be a part of changing the world in terms of how we deal with see ourselves and treat ourselves. Thank you for being part of the journey.